This video is brought to you by PlayTracker, the app that tracks your cross-platform game library, achievements, stats, friend activity, and more. PlayTracker works by connecting to a wide variety of gaming platforms: Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, GOG, EA Origin, and, as of the latest update, Nintendo, Epic, Retro Achievements, Ubisoft, Battle.net, and Riot. It then combines all of your profile data in one place so you can acquire XP, level up, and unlock rewards no matter where you play. Have you ever been watching one of Second Wind's streams and found yourself thinking, hey, I bet I've logged in more hours of Super Smash Bros. Than KC, earned more achievements in Souls games than Jack, and tried more games than Yahtzee has tried on Yahtzee Tries? If so, you're a sick, twisted individual. And we want you to join our guild on PlayTracker. Put that gaming prowess to use and unlock Second Wind-themed profile cosmetics. Keep up with our latest videos on your social feed and earn your spot on a leaderboard of our top fans, which I like to look at every morning to keep myself humble. Unite your gaming multiverse with PlayTracker and join the official Second Wind Guild today.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Windbreakers podcast. I'm Yahtzee Crowshaw, as always. I'm joined, as always, by Jay and Marty.
Hello.
Hey up.
And this week, we're talking about trilogies, which is particularly relevant for me, because I've just finished a trilogy in my personal doings. I put out a Q&A video on my personal YouTube channel that I never update and everything. My Jacques Piccione, the Jacques Piccione.
Oh, your
trilogy.
videos, yeah.
Yeah, my books.
I thought for a reason I thought you were talking about a game, and I was like, "What game trilogy did you did you release?" But yeah, you finished a book series.
Yeah, I've done game trilogies as well, way back in the day. But yeah, I guess the question that we wanted to raise was, what the hell happened to trilogies in gaming, Marty?
Yeah, it's funny you finishing the book and having it done in available in physical form wasn't the reason for this topic. It's because yesterday was the 10th anniversary of Dark Souls 3. So A, HBD Dark Souls 3, and B, it feels like that was like the last major part 3 or trilogy that we had after, I would say, the better part of several decades of trilogies just being the norm, kind of trilogies being the normal way of delivering a series of games. Kind of wanted to talk about that.
I hadn't thought about it till you brought it up, but yeah. Was that the last major trilogy? I mean, we were looking back over recent years. Just last year, the only ones we could find were Little Nightmares 3, which sucked ass and wasn't even by the same developers. And what was the other one? Something shit.
The Jurassic Park Evolution 3.
Evolution is one Eric brought up,
3.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the longest time lately, when it comes to major single-player narrative-based franchises, it's all been 2s. Last of Us 1 and 2, God of War 4 and 5, which might be a bad example, but you know, the Neo God of Wars.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, The Last of Us, Spider-Man. We've gotten 2 Ghost of games so far.
Yeah, these are Sony bad boys.
Now, admittedly, these are all games that haven't yet gotten to a third installment.
Yeah, and we have stuff like Final Fantasy VII is obviously getting a third part in its remake trilogy. Any of those aforementioned Sony games, I would imagine we're going to get a new Spider-Man game, a new Ghost of game, a new Horizon, all that jazz.
But it used to be the case that the trilogy was sort of the default for your long-form serialized narrative. I mean, way back to the days of Star Wars, of course.
Oh, sure. I mean, some of the most famous, movies when we were growing up and just in history, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Matrix, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future.
Yeah. Back to the Future, I would particularly highlight because, of course, famously, the last 2 of those films were made at the same time. Because I guess the feeling was always you do the first one, it does well, and then it's just work on the next 2. It's a trilogy. It's a given.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might know what killed it in the industry, and it's 2 examples, and I think they killed it for trying to do 2 completely different things.
Okay.
Which is Mass Effect 3.
Okay.
For hitting the 3rd installment, and they tried to conclude a narrative through line through 3 games and fell doing that. And BioShock Infinite for trying to do something very different to setting wise to the first two, and stumbling for other reasons. But I think both of those are two high profile third in a trilogy of games that kind of stumbled. And then after that, I can't think of any major franchise that went on to do a third game.
We had stuff like mid-generation. We had stuff like The Witcher, with The Witcher 3, with the Arkham trilogy. But that did feel like that whole time did feel like the end of an era when, if you go back to the PS2 generation, like it was just the norm that we'd get a franchise debut early in the generation and then 2 sequels, with the last one being near the end. That's Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter, Devil May Cry, Prince of Persia, Halo, Gears. Yeah, Sands of Time, sorry. Uncharted, and going into the next generation with Uncharted and
would you say
the Ezio trilogy.
Looking back on the trilogies of the day, would you say any sort of pattern emerged? Because I think there's a pretty clear pattern with movie trilogies that the first one introduces, the second one's the sort of often the best. Spider-Man 2, all of that.
Empire Strikes Back, yeah.
Empire Strikes Back. And the third one is often a bit of a come down, like Return of the Jedi, Spider-Man 3. Do you think that same formula existed with video game trilogies? Because I'll tell you what it looked like to me. They'd always start with like the good one that introduced the concept really well. The second one would often try to play with the formula and hit some missteps, and then the third one would in some way try to bring back the first one. That was certainly the pattern with Sands of Time.
Sure. And that's I think there's almost a couple different formulas that trilogies were taking at the time. I do think second entry kind of being a departure, and third trying to wrap things up with the initial game. That feels a little bit like BioShock, a little bit like the Devil May Cry trilogy, Metroid Prime trilogy.
I would definitely say it about Dark Souls as well.
Dark Souls, 100%. That's a perfect example. I mean, 3 is, has a ton of callbacks to 1, whereas it has almost no callbacks to 2.
Devil May Cry and Dark Souls are great examples there because they are Team 2 examples for the first and second.
So that's an interesting thing, is like when we think of a trilogy, it's difficult when we're talking about these movies. If we're talking about Back to the Future or The Godfather or Star Wars, it was kind of an individual voice behind them. And Star Wars had different directors for the sequels and everything, but it still felt somewhat auteur guided. Whereas now, just the virtue of how long it takes these games to be made, like it is very rare the same person will be at a studio to see 3 installments of a game, because now we get 1 game a generation from these teams. It's not like before where Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas come out in the span of 3 or 4 years.
That just doesn't happen anymore. I mean, we could put it all down to just games taking too long now, because it's hard to keep a through line going that long, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're lucky, you get the first game, and then the next game ties everything up, which was the case with God of War and God of War Ragnarok, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's why it feels like we're almost in this era where the sequel is doing the work of, okay, these feel like 2 halves of a thing, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, or the 2 God of War games, or even the 2 Last of Us games.
It's like, can you guys name a third game in the series that is your favorite? I mean, I'm saying this thinking
Witcher 3.
I couldn't.
I guess Witcher 3 is probably an easy one.
Witcher 3,
Witcher 3.
Yeah.
I think
Dark Souls 3 is my favorite as well. I know it's a bit controversial, but it's my favorite of the trilogy.
Of those original 3,
Well, it's definitely not the case with Prince of Persia.
Though that's an interesting one.
I think the first Prince of Persia game had its flaws. I mean, all the games have their pros and cons. I think the combat's kind of shit in the first one. It's better in the sequels. And I've often said, if you could somehow merge the 3 games together into one big game that takes all the good things and kicks out all the bad things, you might have as close to perfection as you'll ever get in this cold world.
World.
The thing about video games as well is that it's still a young medium, and the medium is still developing. So there's a lot of cases where the third game is best because the first 2 games had technological limitations. I would put The Witcher 3 in that under that heading.
Yeah, look. I'm looking back at some of those trilogies we mentioned before. Like God of War 3 is my favorite of the first three God of Wars.
That was the only one on PS3. The first two were
Yeah,
on PS2,
so
of
that's a
course.
little bit of a cheat. San Andreas was actually my favorite of the GTA trilogy.
Again,
Halo
technology
3.
improved enough that San Andreas could have the biggest map of the trilogy.
Yeah, but still the same generation. And then if we count Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, Snake Eater is my favorite of those, but also a technological leap and the game feels way different than 1.
See, it's weird. MGS3 doesn't really continue the story of the previous two, but MGS4 does. So it's more of a 4 game with like a little interlude for the third.
But it gives you the setup of the other games. But also, I mean, that's the whole thing with a trilogy is like, in the early days of gaming, in the 8 and 16-bit, it was, Nintendo was normal for doing kind of trilogies: Mario 1, 2, and 3, Zelda 1, 2, and then Link to the Past, Metroid 1, 2, and Super Metroid.
But they don't. That doesn't feel like internally,
conceived trilogies. That's the thing I wanted to get to. Is like to us, does a trilogy have to be a thing that is kind of like, okay, this is like ostensibly 3 acts of a story, or does just having a 1, 2, and 3 on it and coming out quick enough feel like a trilogy to you guys?
I don't think of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 as like a trilogy of games. I just think of them as numbered games in the series. Yes, they have connecting things and themes and specific narrative beats, but I don't think of them as like a full-blown narrative. Same with like Mario and stuff.
I mean, the 3-act structure is, you start with the introductions. The second act is like the new complication that ends with the lowest point. And the third act is the recovery from the lowest point and the victory. So, classic Star Wars formula, Empire Strikes Back ends with that downer ending where Han's in carbonite and everyone's depressed about life generally.
Mm-hmm.
And so are there any video game trilogies that fit that formula, the planned trilogy?
Yeah,
nothing really leaps to mind.
Yeah, I mean, you also have kind of I would say more like spiritual or ideological trilogies. I think Resident Evil feels like a franchise that is lumped in trilogies. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8, and 9 feel like almost games of a similar era, games of a similar ethos.
I'm with
even
you
though
on that.
Obviously Resi 9 almost does nothing.
Yeah,
to
I
call
wouldn't
back to
lump
7 and
9
8.
in with that. Yeah.
Well, it
But
calls
I
back
do
to
get what
7
you're
and
saying.
8 in the way that it opens with the first-person segment. Which,
I think it mechanically calls back to them, and it's literally built on the foundations, like the foundational engine of those games. Same with like 5 and 6. They're not nearly as good as 4, but they
like
very much
narratively
build on that action focus
Yeah.
of Leon in 4.
Feels
I
more
think
like a sequel to 2 and 4 though, with the narrative.
4, 5, and 6 does feel like a classic trilogy, and then it starts with the good one and goes to shit by the end.
But but 5 doesn't have the tragic ending. That's like, oh no, what's going to happen to Sheva?
Well,
It's
maybe
tragic
if
for
you're
that boulder.
Well, it's tragic if you're really invested in the character of Albert Wesker, I suppose.
I guess that is true. That is true. Also, in my head, always the Final Fantasy, the first 9 of them, always feel like spiritual trilogies. 1, 2, and 3 being on the NES/Famicom.
Yeah,
4, 5, and
that's
6.
that's console like generation.
Yeah, being Super Nintendo, and then 7, 8, and 9 being PS1. I also think of the Persona games similar to that.
Of course you do.
1, 2, and both 2s feel like they're of a piece, and then 3, 4, and 5. Feel
rescued
like
it there.
Yeah,
That's
both
a
2s.
piece. That there is a piece for like a generational way, because like
generational
Final
trilogies.
Fantasy. Again, I haven't played 8 and 9, but they're all the mainline Final Fantasies are in different settings, with different characters and doing different things. But like mechanically, they could be building on each other. But yeah, like generational trilogies. I think like games that try to do narrative things are really interesting. Prince of Persia being the Sands of Time trilogy being a great example there of like what players were expecting of the third one, Two Thrones, and what they got. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kindred Blades, which was the I think it was the working title for the Two Thrones while it was being developed, and then they scrapped a bunch of it and remade a bunch of it. And a lot of the fans believe that there is a secret version of Two Thrones that actually is the perfect game and stuff like that. Yeah, I know, they're delusional.
It's the Snyder Cut of Prince of Persia.
Exactly.
Who's the lead guy at Ubisoft?
Yves
The,
Guillemot.
Yves Guillemot.
Yeah.
Release the Guillemot cut.
Release the Guillemot cut.
It's weird to think that people have these ideas of what they want from the like final installment. I think people thought of this with BioShock Infinite and like thinking about what it could possibly be and everything that it's going to have, and then just being disappointed by its final delivery. You see that a lot with the third games.
Chat's mentioning Assassin's Creed, which is a very weird example because the first Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3 form a narrative trilogy, but Assassin's Creed 2 individually also has its own trilogy.
Yeah.
In the form of Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhoods, and Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Yeah.
But the third game does its level best to like wrap up the branching narrative. I mean, the fucking main dude in the future plot dies at the end of Assassin's Creed 3. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the end of it.
But the Ezio trilogy, that's we bring up the Ezio trilogy a lot because it is the rare game where you kind of see a character from birth to death. Like we are there with Ezio the entirety of ostensibly his life.
Yeah. And it turns out the second half of his life contains like a slightly unreasonable amount of padding, but never mind.
Yeah. It's interesting how many of these games have kind of they wrapped a trilogy as like a big thing, and then we're kind of never able to get that magic back again. Like I'm looking at either like they never made another mainline game, or it's coming out soon, like your Fable or your Witcher or BioShock or anything, or they made a fourth game and it was kind of maligned with like Mass Effect. Halo has kind of never been the same since Halo 3.
Or in Assassin's Creed case, they just never fucking stopped. They were like the fucking brooms in the Sorcerer's Apprentice. They just kept going.
Who knows what happened after that? Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there's like a notional like group three, if you can group the Assassin's Creeds in threes. So after 3, there was Black Flag, and then Unity.
Black Flag and Rogue. Rogue was that like previous gen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
but then
that was more of a spin-off, but I would say like Black Flag, Unity, and Syndicate were the group of 3 there. Because after that, they switched to the more RPG style with
Origins, Odyssey, and
Valhalla.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say they started a new one with Shadows.
Yeah, but they also had that Mirage spin-off in the middle.
Oh, I forgot Mirage, but that was a spin-off, wasn't it? Yeah, that was another spin-off.
Yeah, I was also trying to think of even like the original Splinter Cell trilogy felt it was a trilogy on a single console, whereas Far Cry is a bit of a weird one because Far Cry 1, 2, and 3 all feel so different from one another. But once 3 codified the formula, 3, 4, 5, and 6 kind of feel like
but
the
it's all
same
just
thing.
3 again.
Feels like a whole meal when it becomes slop for sure.
Yeah.
Kid Barchetta in the chat mentions Resistance. I never played Resistance 1 and 2, but I did play 3, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed 3.
Is that the bug locust one on PlayStation?
No, they're kind of like monsters. That's by Insomniac. It's like a big monster invasion.
Okay.
Kind of like humanoid alien monsters.
It's like alternative history monster invasion. The first one's set in like post-war Britain, but with an alien invasion.
Sick.
Yeah, those were those weird
That's awesome.
that Killzone, Infamous, and a couple other franchises are those weird ones that are kind of lost to time on the
Infamous
PS3
is a great
that haven't been
example.
pushed forward.
Infamous it wasn't a trilogy. It had 2 games, and then it had another game that was unconnected to the first 2 games.
But that goes back to what do you want as a player from a trilogy? Because I do want to see what Yahtzee was talking about, which is this narrative through line of having your act 1, 2, and 3 throughout a trilogy, which was very common back in the early 2000s leading into 2010s, but has kind of dropped off. Like if you look at Spider-Man, for example, on the PS4 and 5, you have 1 and 2, but they're not telling. It's taking place in the same world with the same characters, but there isn't this narrative, like a huge narrative through line. There's returning characters and stuff like that, but it's not continuing the same plot.
Well, the thing about 2 is that they bring in Kraven the Hunter, and Kraven the Hunter murders every supervillain from the first game.
Yeah,
and goes, stakes have risen, bitch.
There's a good through line with Negative Man or whatever he's called, Captain Negative.
Yeah, there was Miles Morales.
Mr. Negative.
If you've forgotten, there was another game, Miles Morales.
Yeah, which kind of is like a weird 0.5 kind of game that feels like a bridge between 1 and 2.
Yeah, sort of another Mirage situation. but it has like plot that you're supposed to remember going into like Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. There was also the examples of by the time a third of the trilogy came out, it had kind of morphed into something that felt completely different from the original game. I would say Jak 3, like Jak and Daxter, feels so different from what it originally was. Dead Space, like, completely leaves the claustrophobic horror of the original game, and it becomes about a co-op running through the snow.
Similar thing happened with the Fear series. I always
that's a good one.
I always grouped the Dead Space trilogy with Fear for making the same mistake of trying to end on a sort of campy co-op game.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I don't know if some of this is like, I don't know enough about Fear to know if the creative direction stayed the same throughout it, but of a similar era, you had Max Payne, and that obviously shifted developers for the third game, and so Max Payne 3 feels so different from Max Payne 1 and 2, even though it is still...
Wait, 3 is the one that's done by Rockstar, right?
Yeah, it was the first 2 was Remedy, and so where those felt like kind of parts of the same story, this is still following Max, but it's a completely different kind of portrayal of Max.
It's very much gotten away from the sort of hyper noir setting of the first 2. Now it's set in like South America, and you wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, you go on a lot of favelas, and
a bit more
looks
Gonzo.
different. Looks like a different character. Yeah, it feels very odd.
I guess it feels more like a Kane and Lynch game than a Max Payne game at that point.
Yeah, because the first 2 feel so kind of pulpy and noiry, whereas this feels like almost like a Michael Mann, Tony Scott movie.
It's a bit grittier, little gritty realism.
Yeah.
I guess with everything, I kind of want to make either a narrative through line that has a satisfying conclusion within its trilogy, or I want mechanical depth and like expression throughout the trilogy. I want the game to build atop its mechanics and get better, right? I can forgive a game's narrative being a little bit weaker in the sense of having a narrative through line if mechanically it is improving. I think Spider-Man 2 is an example of that, of taking the foundations of what they built and then building atop that with everything with Miles Morales and the extra ways to navigate and the combat. I feel like mechanically it builds up so much on top of that I can kind of forgive that weaker narrative.
Of course, because there's the narrative of a trilogy, and there's the narrative by the evolution of the gameplay of a trilogy, which is kind of its own thing, and that's what makes it interesting. Here's an interesting take. Yes. Doom has 3 generations, and between them form a sort of gameplay narrative trilogy. Starts off with your basic shooter and all the spin-offs of that. And then there's Doom 3, the id Tech, whatever it was, era, where everything's gloomy and miserable and scary.
Was that ever revisited, though? Was that just kind of like,
Quake 4?
We tried this out?
Quake 4 used the same engine.
Oh, yeah.
And then we moved into the new era of Doom, in which everything got resolved and everything was redeemed and everything became happy again.
Yeah, that feels cut from a similar cloth as Resident Evil, the way we were talking about that, where like the 3 ideologies of the eras informed how those specific games were made.
It's interesting how much we are touching on eras, and some of the games that have spanned so long, like decades. Mentally, we are splitting them into eras and then considering those eras as trilogies.
I think it's a natural thing to do. I think it's much easier to remember something if you break it into groups of 3, like a PIN number or social security number.
Yeah.
Console generations.
And that seems to be like a thing that we do naturally, culturally as well.
Yeah. It also just might be that the like we were talking about earlier, the current cycle of a game takes so long that we need to zoom out to see, like, maybe trilogies are coming. If we had this conversation in 5 years, maybe it'd be different, because maybe we'll get a third Hollow Knight game, maybe we'll get a third Hades game, or maybe that's not. Maybe they only wanted, like, maybe those were the kinds of games where we had an idea and then we built a sequel that was complete iteration of that idea, and now we're done. We don't have any desire to continue doing that.
Yeah.
If we ever get that third Half-Life game, do you think we'll be able to think of that as a trilogy?
So, yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned Valve at all, which is like the
No,
sort
because
of the
Valve,
elephant in the room here.
yeah, Valve are the anti-trilogy.
Yes.
They just can't get to that third game.
Yeah.
It's happened over and over again. I would argue, they probably didn't need a third Left 4 Dead. I like to think Left 4 Dead 2 sort of perfects the formula, and you kind of don't need to play Left 4 Dead 1 anymore because Left 4 Dead 2's you can just play.
Yeah.
Portal, there wasn't really any foundations of a trilogy left put in that. That was more like, oh, this did well. What a surprise. All right, let's do a proper one. And that was Portal 2. And of course, Half-Life. Half-Life that was set up to be a trilogy. In the classic Back to the Future sense. The first one did really well. Now let's bash out the rest of it in 2 games. But then we somehow, perfectionism got in the way or something. And we never got a third one. I mean, we got Half-Life Alyx, but that's not continuing the story. That's more sort of retconning a lot of things.
Yeah, and that feels
if anything,
like
it's teasing. It's teasing at a third one because the ending of Alyx is Gordon picking up the crowbar.
But it is so technologically different, where it feels like it needs to be in its own bucket, right? It's not just you. God of War jumped from PS2 to PS3. It is this is so fundamentally
this is different hardware, completely different.
Borderline a different medium,
not accessible.
Half-Life is such a weird example because it did the second one. The second one ended on the cliffhanger at the end of episode 2, and then we kept waiting who knows how long, and then they bring out Half-Life Alyx, which undercuts the cliffhanger, basically reverses it, or changes what the cliffhanger was. Yeah. And now it's so weird. They didn't pay it off. They just replaced it with something else. And then we have to wait for that to be paid off.
Oh no, go ahead.
How would you guys feel if Valve were okay, we did our experimentation with Alyx, we're really happy with it. We're going to be bringing out the Steam frame. We're bringing out Half-Life 3, which will be a huge narrative conclusion to this story that we've waited for, but it's VR exclusive. How would you guys feel about
that? I would say, is it nice up there in that ivory tower, Valve? Perhaps you can come down and join us sometime.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like now might be the very worst time to
the worst
here's
time
Half-Life
to do that.
3, and it is locked behind X hundreds/thousands of
People
dollars
in
of additional hardware.
Dev Heads referred to the headsets as privilege goggles, and I like that.
Maybe Valve are just waiting for VR to go cheaper and easier to use and more mainstream, and good luck to them if they are.
Or develop it in a way that is playable, because there are mods that make Half-Life Alyx just an FPS. That you can play it on your PC.
Yeah, and not a particularly good FPS because
because you're removing all the things that make it good, which is all of the interactions.
It's geared for VR.
Yeah, it feels like one of the problems is when we think of movies, one of the most successful movie trilogies is the Lord of the Rings trilogies, and it's because they're adapting a source material, but B, they did it all simultaneously. They wrote their scripts and they filmed it all in one big glob.
That's the problem we keep coming back to, because you can't do that with video games these days.
Because you can't do that with games, and I just don't think so. I don't think ever stories are thought of in that way. Just game development means things are going to be cut. You can't promise something that is going to happen in 8 years because it's very possible it's not going to happen in 8 years.
I mean, that's also the reason why they don't do movie spin-offs anymore. Movie tie-ins, I should say. Video game versions of movies that come out alongside the movie.
Yeah.
Because you just can't make the games quick enough. And then in the meantime, movies are getting easier and easier to make. You can have shooting done in a matter of weeks these days. That would have been unheard of 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. There's also the there's the sales numbers of the Final Fantasy VII Remake sold a shit ton, and the second part sold a quarter of what it did. Because people will buy a thing, but it doesn't mean people are going to finish it. And if people didn't finish it, and the next thing is a direct sequel to it, it's kind of that there's a lot of buy-in. And then once you get to a third part of something, if you're hinging, we have Dune. Sorry, Jesus. There's two things that sound exactly the same. Dune 3 is coming out this fall, the movie, and so that's one of those things of I'm imagining it's not going to make as much money as the previous two, just because there's a certain amount of people who like the Avatar trilogy who like got off the train at a certain point. I was there for the first stop. Maybe I was there for a second stop, but I might be off the train by the time the third stop comes along.
The story's concluded as well, right? Like they're adapting the second book now in the third movie.
I don't know anything about Dune, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, again, going back to Spider-Man, I'm not sure on the sales, but they're on Spider-Man 2, but there might have been less people, but that's why they've now moved to Wolverine, right? Because that's a new thing of a popular character that they can sell, but with like the prestige of being like from the developers of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to sell way more.
Yeah.
But of course, people aren't going to want a trilogy if the trilogies aren't being made with the intention to make a good trilogy, if you see what I mean.
This feels like a real chicken and the egg.
I know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Nobody wants the trilogies anymore because trilogies aren't very good because we've decided people don't want them.
Yeah, but we just don't have the examples to point to that we did. Like in the PS2, PS3 generation, like I could literally list probably 30 trilogies, and we could argue whether they're an actual trilogy, like what the semantics around them are, but we tried to name like 5. And I saw some people in the chat mentioning stuff like the Splatoon trilogy and Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff. And obviously we're not saying there's no trilogies made anymore, but it's just interesting how they used to be. It felt like the norm for a franchise, and now it absolutely feels like an anomaly if we get one.
You hit the nail on the head, I think, Marty, with just like factoring in costs and timeframes. From replaying FF7 and seeing what they achieved in a single year with that game, and then to hear you mentioned to me, Marty, that they then released 8 and 9 within another 2 or 3 year span.
I think 7, 8, 9, and 10 all came out between 97 and 2001.
What the fuck?
Yeah, while Square was also making a shit ton of other games, Final Fantasy Tactics, and like 10 other bangers on the PS.
Whereas
PS1.
4 years, those 4 years, to get a single AAA game out in our modern era, 4 years would be considered a good length of time to do it. Yeah. Like you'd be like, okay, that's actually relatively decent. 3 to 4 years is a really decent time to get it out.
Yeah.
And they had 4 games out crossing 2 generations.
Yeah.
It's a different era. It would take 15 years to get a trilogy out of that quality.
I was wondering why we don't see like maybe trilogies in indie games. Since we've already established AAA can't really do it anymore, and it just occurs to me that making Splendid to make a whole 3 games feels a bit cheeky considering how many indie games there are competing for attention. Like trying to compete, you want to compete for attention with 3 whole games. That's like taking too much oxygen out of the room.
Yeah, and your first game has to be a hit. Otherwise, what are you doing? Like, the only reason we got Silksong and Hades 2 is because Hollow Knight and Hades 1 were such massive hits. Like, otherwise, an indie dev, as much as they love a thing, like, I don't think Simogo is going to make Lorelei and the Laser Eyes 2 because that game didn't sell very well, and so they'd be better off making something else, and maybe that'll be a hit.
Well, this is the paradox, isn't it? For making a good trilogy, you should plan it out as a trilogy at the start, but you don't want to plan out a series until you know the first one's a hit.
Yeah.
Like I said this before, but Star Wars is the perfect example because Star Wars, they didn't know it was going to be a hit, but it was. And then they were able to make a trilogy because there was like a thinking on the back foot that they could probably get more sequels out of the first one.
Yeah.
Even though the first one works as a standalone movie, but there were threads that could be made into sequels. That's the happy middle ground. Don't plan on the trilogy, but just leave some threads.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you try and start strong with having like your act 1 in the first game, and then you realize that it's not financially viable to make a second, you have a weak like singular game. It's just a game that does not conclude its narrative and just sets up threads. I also want to loop back. You guys touched on something there, which was competition, I think, and the amount of games coming out. If we think back to like the PS1, 2, and early Xbox days, there weren't a lot of as many games to be competing with for attention. Whereas nowadays, like the amount of games coming out every day is astronomical. It's crazy. So if you're an indie, if you're a smaller team, maybe AA, you can kind of plan on having like a niche market, and it might not sell gangbusters, and the sequels might not do as well as the original, but it's enough to sustain the company. But nowadays, if your game doesn't really do very well, your potential audience has thousands of other games that they could be playing. So the sequels might do even worse. So just stick to originals.
Yep.
Shall I go to Super Chats?
Did we fix the problem? We're getting Trilogies now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all fixed. They'll be working on those toot fucking sweet.
I think the best thing about this
welcome.
podcast is we introduce a problem, and within 30 minutes, we fixed it. So
there you go. Ravens, weekly word of the week. Our first Super Chat, as always, week 46, ternary.
That is of Ternary and Hooch, the film about the detective and his dog.
Yeah.
It means a group of three things, obviously, because Raven likes to tie these things in now.
Cheeky little Raven. Beautiful.
Okay, here's a question for you, for the both of you. We know a trilogy is three things. What do you call a 4-part series?
I believe Alien referred to it as the quadrology.
They did, and they were wrong too.
Alien! How could you?
They coined the word, and now it's borderline accepted parlance. But the actual word is tetralogy.
Tetralogy.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Damn.
Tetralogy.
So Alien's got a lot to answer for there. Highsco gives £99. It says, think trilogies as burgers. A single can be very nice. A double is more, but can have that same taste. A triple, while could still be nice, could also be one or two too many. Apologies if you are hungry now.
I feel like Highsco, you just wanted to talk about food.
Yeah, you're just hungry.
You knew this was my lunchtime.
Yeah, I don't know if it feels like a triple burger, or does it feel like 3 burgers?
Well, KFC Double Down, isn't it? Is that just some chicken in a big lump of chicken, or is it a sandwich with chicken instead of bread?
I think of it as 3 separate burgers, and what you do with those burgers is very, very important. Like, you have your base normal standard cheeseburger. The second one you could be a double cheese, which is just the same but more awesome. Or it could be something like a different blend of meat. It could be, it's got a different bun. And I feel like you have to have some kind of different layer in each burger. Otherwise you get sick.
Yeah, a lot of that nuance will get lost if you take one big bite and encompassing all of the burgers.
It just tastes like meat.
For me, I prefer the Big Mac situation where there's a layer of bread between the 2 patties, so your teeth have a chance to take a little break in between the meat.
I like the idea of Yachts biting into a Big Mac, getting to the fucking bun and just stopping for a second and then continuing to bite.
Well, you'll get old too someday, I need to pause to get my breath back.
We can hope. I might die tomorrow.
Anyway, Ryan Betts, member for 26 months in Tip Jar. Thank you very much. And also Jim Matchett, member for 28 months. Boy, that's a lot of months.
Holy Moses.
And then Ryan Betts comes back with a $2 super chat to say, the problem when a 4th one gets made.
Rip. Uncharted 4 was pretty good.
Yeah, I like Uncharted 4.
It was the first one on the PS4, and it was noteworthy because it was the first time Naughty Dog had a franchise that extended beyond one console generation.
That is true, yeah. Yeah, Crash on the PS1, Jack on the PS2, Uncharted on the PS3.
And then Last of Us on PS4.
Yeah. Last of Us did launch on the PS3.
Did it? Well, bollocks to that theory then.
But they didn't get to... It was the first time Naughty Dog had it because it was before The Last of Us Part 2. So you're still correct.
Okay, there you go.
Can we acknowledge quickly that Uncharted 1 and a bit of 2 controls like absolute ass?
Uncharted 1 absolutely controls like ass. I think Uncharted 2 controls pretty good.
I think it's a really fun game, but I feel like I'm fighting with it to play it.
I remember having problems with the cover mechanics in those games.
Yeah,
and they aiming.
They feel a bit sticky. Though I think I'm right in saying Uncharted was one of the first games to let you switch shoulders in a third-person shooter by pressing in one of the analog sticks.
Get
to
it, Nathan.
The camera to the other shoulder.
You couldn't do that in Resi 4, could you?
I don't think so. No, you definitely couldn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mr. Sadface gives $5 and says, what are Jermaine and Marty's equivalent to Yahtzee's roguelike annoyed yell, and what overused gaming tropes cause said annoyed yells? He's referring to a semi-ram in which I said that when a game reveals itself to be a roguelike, I make a noise as follows. Oh!
That's pretty good.
So what makes you go, oh, when you thought you were
s-
excited for a game?
Stealth. Force stealth in non-stealth games. Like, just fuck off.
I
Do
played
something
through Ocarina
else.
of Time this weekend that has several instances of that, and it's all the worst parts of the game. I also have the roguelike thing, but also if I see a trailer for a game and it looks like it's going to be like a normal character on the ground game, and then the camera zooms out and it turns out it's a strategy game, I'm like, what did you tricked me? I thought I was going to get to be that man on the ground, but instead I'm in the sky. I don't want to be there.
Just zoom in, Marty. Just zoom in. Oh yeah, and the noise I make alongside it is you.
Yeah, I like that noise. I do that. I try to do that as well.
Doing an impression of, what is that, like a burglar alarm?
No, that's me when I see stealth sections in games that shouldn't have them.
Also, when a burglar enters.
Yeah. When he's stealthing, oh my god.
Waiting for Viva Pinata 2 gives 200 asses. It says, oh, Marty, did you forget Mega Man Legends 3 for the 3DS? Oh, wait.
R.I.P.
Also, Xenoblade did a second and third entry for the Switch. Heck, even Mario Party got 3 games for the Switch 1. Also, does the Dragon Quest remake trilogy count?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of remakes of threes. Like Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 got a remake. Nihon Falcon's remaking the Trails games.
Crash Bandicoot, the trilogy
Crash,
got remade.
Spyro.
Getting remade all in one big pile. Usually like trilogies from the days when like the 3 games are all kind of similar, like your Crash Bandicoot case.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's just easier to lump them together.
Yeah.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy gives $4.99. It says Marvel Spider-Man 2 is the third. Ass Creed 3 is the fifth. Words are jazz. Other than new FF7, have there been any game trilogies planned as such at start?
I just feel like it's like if you come out of the gate and saying we're planning this to be a trilogy, like what if Immortals of Avium or Forspoken, like one of those big AAA games, said we're planning to be a trilogy from the start? Like if Pragmata coming out later this week was like, this is the start of the Pragmata trilogy. It just feels like one of those.
Yes.
All right, settle down, make one good game, see if people like it, see if people buy it, and then go forward from there, which
like
again
the same
is against what we're talking about of having an ideal, like having a trilogy planned out from the start.
I would say you'd be lucky.
Shit on it.
Yeah,
you'd be lucky. Also, like movies, we're now in that era because Zack Snyder was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring out my trilogy of movies for his what's that shit series of movies he did on Netflix."
Oh yeah, what was it? Yeah, and then like I think they split it into 2, and then they're like, "No more, just we're done with this."
Yeah, we're not doing anymore because it didn't do very well.
Hang on a sec. The first 3 Commander Keen games, they were a planned trilogy.
Were they planned from the start?
I think so. They were all like in basically the same engine.
Gotcha.
And they tell a complete story about Commander Keen and going against his arch nemesis. And there's more Commander Keens after that. There's like a 4, 5, and 6 that also forms its own sort of trilogy. But I want to say the first 3 Commander Keens, the old DOS platformers, were a planned trilogy.
Yeah, I don't know some of those older games. Like I don't know what Fallout was originally. I don't know what Ultima was originally. I don't know Baldur's Gate. Like Baldur's Gate 3, I would not say finally the Baldur's Gate trilogy has wrapped because it's been so long and it's so clearly a different team.
Yeah. Why even put the 3 on the end in the first place?
Yep.
Just give it a subtitle. Baldur's Gate: The Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Murasaki848 gives $10 and says, I'm reminded of Mostly Harmless, the 5th book in the increasingly inaccurately named Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy. Yes, that was the subtitle of the 5th Hitchhiker's book.
In the trilogy.
LOL. LOL, etc.
Good stuff.
Mockman43 gives $1.99, says, for a late trilogy, Metro series. 3rd game, 2019.
I don't know anything about Metro. Yeah. It's a complete blind spot. And there's a new one being announced on Thursday, apparently. I don't know anything about them.
I know that ammo is currency, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I remember the 3rd Metro game felt like quite a departure from the first 2. Because the first 2 are all like... Sort of. The first 2 were sort of claustrophobic horror games. And the 3rd one was like, oh, turns out the rest of the world hasn't been blown up. Don't we feel stupid for hiding in that bunker for all these years?
Oh God.
But anyway, Squirtle Squad 420 gives $10. It says, my gaming trilogy experience is typically the first one has the best story, the second one has better gameplay but worse story, and the third is usually just bland. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's hard, especially if we've talked before about how sequels, the best sequels are the ones that take what the original did and just improve upon it in kind of every way, shape, and form. And so you get to that point, you're like, well, what do I do now? Like, I've kind of perfected the idea we have, but now what? Do I just do more, or do I veer off in a completely different direction?
Well, it's damned if you do, isn't it? A creative auteur wants to go in a different direction that might potentially alienate fans, whereas a soulless committee wants to just bring out more of the shit the fans want, and then it all descends into tedium.
Unless you're Devil May Cry, and then it goes banger, hand it off to someone else, produce actual shit, and then the team has to come back and be like, all right, I'll show you how it's done again.
I mean, some people would say Dark Souls was the same thing. I would not.
I mean,
I defend Dark Souls 2 in this house.
Okay, you can do that. There are definitely good points.
There's dozens of us.
I've played 2 more than 3, if I'm honest.
Whoa.
So have I, which is weird because 3 is better. I don't know why I've played 2 more than 3.
I just found soft 3 because, I get to one of the bits where there's like one of the really like maze-like bits, so I'm not sure where to go, and then I just sort of peter off.
Lose your interest.
Yeah.
And you're both sickos, that's why you play it more.
We're both sickos as well.
Fair enough. PI1203 rate, pirate with a number in the middle, gives $20 and says, quick answer from last week about Assassin's Creed future characters. Layla Hassan is Origins through Valhalla, Loki in Mirage looking at Bayek's life, and unnamed person in Shadows playing the new Animus console being observed by 2 AIs. Oh, who cares?
Wait, Loki like the trickster god?
Oh my God.
Or just another man named Loki?
I mean, feels weird to call yourself Loki and not be the trickster god.
Sure.
It would be just like him.
It's low-key rude.
Whoa.
Anyway, Murray the Demonic Skull gives $5 and says, based on timing, the decline of trilogies stroke any long-running series occurred with the rise of live service. No, The Last of Us 3, Naughty Dog was forced to do live service game.
I think we will get a Last of Us 3 someday.
Do you think?
Yeah. Probably like 10
I hope we don't.
Ellie's quest to file for some time with the child. Ellie's divorce settlement.
Maybe she gets robot fingers.
I want them to do new things. I want them to. What they're making? What's it called? Intergalactic.
I
want them to make Intergalactic and try and do.
That's the exact thing I think of every time I see it. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember in Star Trek? Was it Into Darkness when he uses uses a Beastie Boys song to destroy the enemy fleet? It's fucking awesome.
Sick as hell.
I mean, Star Trek isn't even intergalactic. It all takes place in the same galaxy.
It was a remix version of the song that was intergalactic because it's talking about our galaxy.
Oh, okay. Wait, is it
intergalactic?
I don't know.
But intercity rail is travel from one city to another. So
I'm not even sure if it is the intergalactic song they use. I think it might be something else.
No, it's Sabotage.
I think intragalactic would refer to affairs within the same galaxy. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right,
like
Raven.
Intracourse.
And internet versus intranet. Yes. Murazaki gives $5. Says commercially available video games have been around for half a century now. Can we really say the medium is still a young one? Well, it is compared to everything else.
Yeah.
It's positively it's young compared to movies, and it's positively infantile compared to books.
Yeah, music, art,
creation of the universe.
Yeah, it's the youngest medium I dabble in. I guess the internet. I don't know. Does the internet count as a medium?
It counts as the thing that destroyed us all.
Sure, it does that too.
True.
Yeah.
Although, there's been a turnaround. Hungary kicked out their shithead leader.
That's good.
Gives us hope for the rest of the world.
Yeah. There's some fun videos on YouTube as well. So that's nice.
Pirate with the number in the middle comes back with $10 and says, Mass Effect 3 is my favourite. Besides the very, very end, I love the payoff it gave the Genophage story and the Gethstroke Quarian story. Well, perhaps that's a good way to take a positive attitude to that game.
I haven't played those. Could you guys give me like a very, very
I haven't played either.
quick overview of what it did wrong?
Well, everyone hated the ending of Mass Effect 3 because basically whatever choices you'd made up to that point, it came down to what color laser do you want to shoot through the universe to in some way save the day.
Okay.
And then it just skips past like the epilogue and just skips the future saying, "Yeah, everything worked out. Thanks, Commander Shepard."
Good job, Shepard.
Okay, yeah, fair. Okay, I get it.
Vactor, member for 27 months in the Green Gang, says Mass Effect 3, good to the last. Oh, never mind.
There we go.
Relevantly.
Rip.
And the Man in Black gives $10. Says, last week I brought up the Batman Arkham trilogy, and I'm mentioning it again this week. I didn't hate Arkham Origins, but Warner Brothers wasn't involved in that one, so it doesn't count. Yeah, it's an interesting trilogy. I want to say Arkham City was probably, in retrospect, the highlight, the high mark. It's weird, though. I could sort of like Batman Asylum and Batman City for different reasons.
Same.
Sort of-
They
Yeah,
feel very
agreed.
different to me.
Yeah, I sort of like them both as the same. It's just Asylum's more sort of linear Zelda-style progress, and Arkham City's full-on open-world sandbox.
Yeah, Asylum's like almost like
yeah.
like a spooky Metroidvania, whereas
Yeah.
City feels like a really fun
Yeah.
superhero
Open world game, yeah.
Well, at least
And
we can
then-
all agree Arkham Knight was the shit one.
tank.
But then
tank,
Origins is a prequel, right? So like I don't really consider them a trilogy.
I do again
that
because
regard?
like Origins was by WB Montreal instead of Rocksteady, so it was
Yeah.
like
So we discount
Okay.
Origins. It's like a spin-off.
Yeah.
it's one of those, everyone groups trilogies differently, I guess.
But
Yeah.
since Arkham Shadow on like VR, like Arkham Origins is its own little
Pocket
series.
almost,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's its own little series now.
Because
Of course, Arkham Shadow was the direct sequel to that. Cyrus the Hedgehog gives $5 and says, missed Q&A. Will Dida become a long-running series or till overarching third way theory plot is done? Also noticed Galaxy for Good isn't by Dark Horse. Yeah, that's why it took so long for the print version to come out, because Dark Horse pulled out. But I've always been hoping to just keep the Dida series going as a sort of Monster of the Week series.
Oh, that's fun.
But I do have like an overarching plot that's barreling towards some kind of conclusion. Maybe we'll just do an Assassin's Creed. We'll just resolve that plot and then make up some other shit and keep them going.
Just bring in Loki. Have Loki come
Yeah.
in. Mess everything up.
Yeah, I mean, Loki seems to be like the common factor in
you
big
go.
video game franchises. And big franchises generally, because he's in the Marvel Universe as well.
That's right.
Everyone loves Loki. Everyone loves a trickster figure.
Everyone loves Loki.
That's why there's a lot of like global like mythologies and religions throughout the world that all independently develop their own trickster figure. It's just like a popular figure in myth.
Yeah.
Bastards have always existed. It's a fact.
You got to have the bastard who's causing trouble so you can have all the nice heroes come and sort the trouble out.
The two constants in life: flood myth, bastards.
Yeah.
That's it.
Every society's got them.
Well, I like to say trickster figure because it sounds more academic. Anyway, Sinos the Hedgehog 2000 gives $2 and then relevantly says, if only Sonic hadn't gone to 3D after his third game.
I like Sonic Adventure. I'm gonna say it.
What
like
widely
Sonic
considered a good one, right?
Well,
Yeah, for
I
like
wouldn't say-
for babies with dumb brains like me.
Or am I thinking of two? People really like Adventure 2.
People like two more than one, and they're wrong. One is
Well,
better.
if you're invested in Sonic being a 2D platformer, you probably wouldn't like Sonic Adventure very much.
Okay.
Anyway, Harry Sun 94 gives $10. Says, I can't believe Mass Effect 3, warts and all, EA Rush Job, etc., came out only 2 years after Mass Effect 2. Remember when dev cycles weren't 5 years minimum for AAA games? I
This
do.
wasn't that long ago. This was like
I remember when
Yahtzee
we
and I
all
were
took
working
the
in
piss,
the industry.
I remember when we all took the piss out of John Romero for taking 2 years to make Daikatana.
Insane.
Just
You're
level.
a Rama. This is taking so long, John Romero. Jesus, what's wrong with you? A superb owner gives $2 and says, my favourite trilogy has got to be the Half-Life trilogy. Well, if it never ends, you can never be disappointed, can you?
Or technically now there's 5 entries into it. It's
Oh,
a
God.
quadruplogy?
I'm guessing quintology, but
Quintology, that sounds
don't-
better.
Flop of a gay.
don't quote me on that. Hang on, I'll
Yeah.
look it up.
I will.
Yeah, because Tetra came out of nowhere. Tetra was
Quintology,
What's
yes. Also termed a pentology, so I was probably wrong to say
a
quintology.
pentology.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Pentiment.
I suppose tetragon would be like an alternative word for a square.
Yeah,
Because
it sounds kind of scary. It sounds kind of like a dragon.
because a pentagon has 5 sides, but a tetragon would
Mm.
have 4 sides. That would be a square.
Yeah. At
I
that
feel like
point,
I'm in
just
an
call it
Oxford
Florida.
I feel like I'm in an Oxford Dictionary meeting where people are just trying to make words up so they can
Yeah.
say they've got one in
That's
a
actually
book.
that's actually what we're doing now.
How dare you suggest that the Oxford English Dictionary makes up words to fill pages?
All words are
yeah,
made
that's-
up. What are you on about?
Well, it's got to be in common parlance before it goes into the dictionary.
If I tell enough people, if I tell my mum and my sister.
Well, how
Common
it usually
parlance.
works is you make up a slang word and it becomes common parlance.
Yeah.
That's how you can't just invent new words. It has to like organically become common parlance.
They must hate it when all the kids, all the chillin, take a commonly used word but start using different context to describe it as slang.
I think
must
the
hate
OED love when that happens. It gives them something to do.
We can bring out a new edition.
Hey,
Yay!
we don't have to copy paste the entry from the last book.
Yeah.
Hey.
Do people call them the OED, or is that just something you call them?
I think a lot of people call it the OED. Yes,
Incredible.
I mean the New York Times crossword has a few times.
Oh, there you
Peter Parker SL gives $10. Says I can think of a couple of trilogies that tried to do something different in their fourth game that failed horribly. Sly Cooper, Mass Effect, and Spyro. I think fit this mold.
Good
Well,
example.
there you go.
Good example right there.
I'm really loving the era of take 2D game but now make it 3D because we're in the era of 3D in the late 90s. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a
Yeah.
great era. I love it.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia 3D. We suck.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Turns out we suck. Oh, blimey, there's a lot of super chats. Mirith D gives $5, says, WoW is doing a trilogy in their expansions right now and treating it as 3 parts, developing with most of the story written, I believe.
They
God,
are.
when will it end?
Yeah, they came back. Chris Metzen, who left the company, I think it was shortly after Activision took over. He came back to the company and was like, the next 3 expansions we're doing are not going to be self-contained stories. They're going to be a trilogy. So I think it's really interesting for a WoW. They've just released part 2.
And in terms of like continuity and timeline, World of Warcraft must have started. Like the original World of Warcraft would have been like the Renaissance to modern, and what it's doing now is like modern history.
Seriously, it's like it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Tsunami Douche gives $20 and says nothing, just throwing that out like it ain't no thing.
Douche.
We love you, Tsunami
Harry's,
Deja.
and then Harry's Son 94 comes back with $5 and says, on the topic of Valve, which class did you all play the most? I was always fond of the Spy and Demo Man. What I find interesting about that super chat, Harry Son, is that at no point in it were the words Team Fortress 2 mentioned.
Yeah. But we all immediately knew what they were talking about.
Well, we all know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's how you know a game's iconic.
We didn't even mention Team Fortress 2 in this podcast.
No,
not even when we were talking about Valve.
Another thing that never got to 3.
Yeah.
What's the answer for you guys then?
Wait, yeah, I've barely played, so I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I was a medic main when I played it because that was the easiest job. You just find someone who knows what they're doing and point at them. But I also tended to piss about with pyro now and again because again, you just spray and pray.
I like the spy. I like the spy's look the best. I think he's the coolest looking character personally.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking character, I like the sniper best because he's Australian.
Sniper's cool. Sniper's fun.
Speaking of Flood Myth and Bastards, I am a Flood Myth bastard because all I played was Sniper and Spy, so that makes me a scum.
There you go.
Well, yes, people like playing Sniper because there hasn't been a good point-and-click adventure game in years. Sinus the Hedgehog gives 2,000, gives $5, doesn't give 2,000, Jesus Christ. Gives $5 and says, I feel Crash had run out of ideas after the third game. He did Tropics, Ruins, Sewers, Ice Caves, Space Stations, and Time Travel. Where do you go after that? Well, it turns out where you go after that. Maybe? Well, it turns out where you go after that is more time travel.
I liked Crash 4. I actually didn't mind it, but
Yeah,
I mean, with platformers like that, you kind of just can wait long enough and then come back with a different spin on those same biomes and kind of be fine.
A different
Also,
spin?
Did they bring out that Crash Splatoon game they were working on?
They did, and I
No.
believe it's already been shut down.
Oh,
What? They
yeah.
did, and it's what?
Yeah, I believe Crash. I want to say it was Crash Rumble.
Crash Team Rumble. I played that
Crash
at
Team
GDC.
Yeah.
And that seemed mostly done to me. Oh well.
I've never heard of that.
Oh no, maybe it's not shut down. Might not be shut down.
Wait,
yet.
weren't you there, Jay?
Yeah, that shows how much this left an impact on me, dude.
Okay.
I was there with
Right.
you.
Or was that a previous GDC that you weren't at? I don't know. Anyway, Blue Team K087 gives $4.99. Says Nihon Falcom is in the middle of remaking the Trails in the Sky trilogy, which kicked off an interconnected series of the Trails series of 14 games.
Yeah, that and Xenoblade are my two big white whales I need to get to in terms of
I've heard great
movie
things,
franchises people love.
Michael Wallace gives £2 and says, wish Mass Effect 3 had a bleak 70s sci-fi ending, always lose. Like in Silent Running, where
I like Silent Running.
the dude dies and this movie ends with a sad robot watering plants.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be great.
Oh, I like Silent Running.
Same.
I've never heard of it. Sounds good.
It's a classic 70s sci-fi movie.
Good.
Also, Logan's Run. I've always been fond of Logan's Run as a film.
Same.
Not just because you get to see Jenny Agutter's tits. Well, someone like Link Beyond Blue Sky, apparently Jenny Agutter was in the consideration to play Dr. Crusher in Star Trek The Next Generation. And I would have been well behind that.
You would have had a Dr.
bet
Crush
you
on
would, mate.
her.
Yeah, I certainly
Whoa.
would. She was also in American Werewolf in London. And you can see her tits in that as well. For fans of Jenny Agutter's tits.
Do you have these
You
catalogs?
know what?
Do you have these written down?
Let's just make some space so you can go over all the times you can see the tits of all the women you like from the 70s.
I just like Jenny Agutter, sue me. I had a boyhood crush on Jenny Agutter from watching Logan's Run on Late Night Channel 4.
You
If
have a
you keep
manhood
saying her
crush.
name, she's going to appear in a mirror in your bathroom, which sounds like you wouldn't mind. So
Well, she's pretty old these days, so that would be scary. I find it a little depressing that, occasionally I've mentioned having a crush on Jenny Agutter in my reviews, and a lot of viewers just went, well, that makes sense. Because he's such an old bastard and everything.
yeah.
Anyway, Nick Knoll gives $5 and says, I think we're almost at the point where we can start having game tie-ins, i.e. a cheap, quick movie made to coincide with a giant game release. Quantum Break springs to mind.
I like a cheap, quick movie tying in
Yeah.
with the game. That's fun. Yeah.
Mario
Yeah, and
Galaxy
there's been-
springs to mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's been 2 Mario movies in the time it's taken to make... How many Mario games? None?
Yeah, we haven't had a core Mario game since then. I mean, we had Mario Wonder, but not a big 3D one. It's funny. You looking up who's that lady's name? Jenny Agatha? Her name's Jenny Agatha?
Jenny Agutter.
Jenny Agata.
Agutter. As in, what's that thing that drains water off your roof? Oh, it's
Gutter.
Agutter.
Oh, Jenny Agutter.
Yeah.
Jenny Agutter, the writer
Jenny
of
from the
Tits
gutter.
on the Orient
It's like Jenny
Express?
from the block, but she's from the gutter.
Anyway. Kite M gives 1,000 CLPs and gives RIP Neo Deus Ex. They never got to finish its story. Well, if they'd wanted to, they should have taken things a bit more seriously with the second one, I think. I played Mankind Divided and reached the end and was like, well, absolutely bugger all happened in that game, did it?
Audience divided. Am I right?
Yeah. So I take the point Ross Scott made in his reviews of these games that Deus Ex 1 is a really complex game that covers like all sorts of different themes and topics. And the Neo Deus Exes are just like, people got robot arms now and everyone's got an opinion on them.
Yeah. Yeah, lost a little bit of the...
Yeah, just feels like feels like the scope got a bit narrow there.
Yeah.
Hjorth87 gives 100 Danish kroner and says, a thought on Mass Effect. 1, intro to the setting, lot of exploration, focus on the galaxy. 2, focus on characters, not much exploration, but much on characters and their arcs. 3, climax, more narrow storyline. And then
like with Jenny
everything went
Agutter.
to shit.
But they're coming back. Mass Effect 5, everything will be fine. Shepard's coming back. Do you miss that?
Is he?
Shepard's
Probably.
back.
Probably.
I always think of him as a he because I played him as a he.
Sure.
I deliberately made him as unattractive as possible in the first game and then sort of kept that going through the
Is that just his
sequels.
default model?
I made him like bald and made him look like Pete Postlethwaite
Love Pete Postlethwaite.
with a really
Why don't
weak
you make
chin.
them a woman and make them look like Jenny Agatha?
Jenny Agutter. I will not
Agutter.
have you misspeak the name of my waifu.
Sorry.
Anyway,
I still don't know. I should probably look her up because I still don't know how her name looks.
All right, look her up. Look at a picture of her from the 70s.
It is a gutter. Jenny a gutter.
Yes, and look at a picture of her from the 70s
She's
and concede
beautiful.
that she's hot as shit.
She's beautiful.
I'm doing it. I'm looking. I'm looking.
Jenny a gutter.
Everyone aboard the Agatha train.
Choo choo.
In fact,
Ooh,
Eric,
Yachts would like to clean that gutter.
Eric,
Jesus.
bring her up in her Logan's Run costume for everyone to see. Anyway,
She was in Chucky. She was in the second Chucky movie.
really?
Chucky 2.
Oh, Eric, what good are you? Can't bring up a picture of
She
Jenny
was in the
Agutter.
Avengers and in Winter Soldier.
Huh. Well,
She-
what do you
who'd
know?
she play?
Nice to know she's still finding work.
Who did she play in that?
Probably an old lady. Go on, Eric, get on it.
Wow, we have to
You didn't know how to
assist
spell,
Eric
you didn't know
in
how to
looking
spell her
this up?
name. I had to get in here. I'm the only one helping the
Well,
gutter
Nick-
sans.
Eric, I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked.
Yeah, we found the one weakness of Eric. He can't find pictures of Jenny Agutter.
Because you kept saying a gutta, and I didn't know. I didn't know how to even start spelling it.
Anyway, waiting for Viva Pinata 2 gives 100 asses. It says, I love how nobody brought the Final Fantasy 12 trilogy, lol. Also, why devs should do a trilogy if they can just do DLC? People who buy the base game on sale may buy DLC at full price.
Assume you mean the 13 trilogy? Because 12 did not have a trilogy. It had a sequel. It had a weird spin-off game on the DS, but
Huh.
the 13
Does
trilogy.
10 also have 2 games? There's like 10
10 and 10-2. 10-2 was a
Yeah.
kind of a direct spin-off sequel on PS2 that
Yeah.
reused a lot of the same locations
And
and
then-
enemies and stuff.
Oh, I see.
And 13 had Lightning Returns. I don't know
And
if that's...
10-2, or in 13-2. So it had 3
Yeah.
games. 13,
But-
13-2, and Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13, which is...
Boy, and people say this series has a confusing continuity.
But then Kingdom Hearts came along and was like, don't, we'll show you how to do
God.
this.
We'll clear this shit up. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
Anyway, Sinus the Jog gives $2. It says, Quake and Fear are worse trilogies cause multiplayer. That's an interesting notional connection, isn't it? Quake in Fear.
Whoa.
Quake in
Fear.
Quake in Fear.
Quake in Fear.
Quake and Fear.
Quake and Fear at our terrible multiplayer third installment.
That.
Rasputin gives $5 Canadian dollars. Says this is good reason for AAA to exclusively make new IPs. People are more excited for a new IP than a sequel. All Sony sequels are lackluster. Well, speaking of new IPs, Pragmata is my review this week, and that's the first AAA new IP I've seen in a while.
Yeah. First off, all Sony sequels are lackluster is an insane take. Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok,
Yeah.
Ghost of
wouldn't
Yote,
say-
all sold and scored gangbusters. Yahtzee might not like them.
All right, fine. I don't think any of them were really had the spark of their originals.
Sure. Would you call them lackluster?
Well, no. I think there was plenty of luster to go around,
Sure.
but only because everyone was being whipped in sweatshops getting the games done.
But I also I stand by the fact that I agree with you that like the first ones tend to make such a big splash that like that's why we never really think about Ragnarok the same way we think about 2018, or I personally don't think about Spider-Man 2 the same way I think about Spider-Man 1, is because the
Yes.
first one came out kind of so fully formed, and the second one was just a little bit more of the same.
Fill My Ass Up gives 100 Norwegian kroner and says, Trilogies seem to come down to what stories you're trying to tell. If the third game is a wrap-up, then it's at least something. Unexplored ideas can be used as a setup for a new IP.
I mean, we're living in like a perfect world where we're like, why don't people just make new IPs? Because they don't sell. Like, I don't think Pragmata is not going to sell as many copies as Resi 9 did. If Resi
think
9 wasn't called Resi 9, it would not have sold as many copies.
Well, Pragmata might be a new IP, but it is playing things as safe as you could possibly
Don't you
get.
dare, Yahtzee. Oh, no, though. Never mind. Bargo's up. Reviews are out. You can say whatever you
Oh,
want.
okay.
Never
Oh,
mind.
well. Hey! I wasn't Bargo busting. I was just saying that it was playing it safe because it has a
I
very
know.
cute little girl on the front cover.
I just got scared because I thought you were Bargo busting, but the review embargo was this morning. You
We
can't
have
bust.
never
got
Bargo
very high
busted
reviews.
on
It
this
has like an
podcast
88 or an
ever.
89 on Medical Critics.
Well, isn't that always the way in the very early reviews? People were
All 5 people that bought it have reviewed it highly. That's sick.
It's critics.
Like
What
fucking
are we doing?
Crimson Desert had rave reviews like just before release. Did it
Crimson
not?
Desert's Metascore went up over time.
Well, it was up at first, then it went down, then it went up again.
When they made all their
Yeah, when they
changes
fixed
and
it,
updated
when
the
they
game.
made it, when they made it not shit.
What if you fix the game a month before it comes out instead of a month after?
Well,
What
and
if you
also
did
it
that?
gets
Well,
better.
it
Like
wasn't
critics
how
can't be trusted.
wasn't that how we used to do things?
Yeah.
Can't
Anyway.
trust critics, so it's high. Dips down because the opening of the game sucks and everyone who plays it thinks it's shit. But then the game gets better the further you go in, so the review scores climb. It makes perfect sense to me.
Resident Evil Requiem. Rave reviews the moment it came out, and everyone played it, got to this halfway point. Metacritic
No,
score went
just
straight
you
down.
two said that. Everyone else is happy with the game.
Well, they're wrong to be. Anyway. Blistered Soul gives £4.99, says Jack and Daxter, 3 games of evolving identity, platformer, GTA ripoff, and the third, which balances both, plus expanding vehicle gameplay, setting up Jack X.
It's very strange. Like none of
Also-
those games feels like the next game to me.
Also part of the wave of 2000's dark and edgier sequels, in which we also include Prince of Persia, Warrior Within.
Prince of Persia.
I think that was the post GTA 3. GTA 3 was huge. We got into Iraq and Afghanistan. Everything got dark. Not in GTA 3. In the real world, we went to Iraq and Afghanistan.
That was also correlating with like a rise of sort of emo music, your Marilyn Manson's, your My Chemical Romances.
Metal became a little bit more mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it with everyone in that period of time? Everyone was getting all broody.
I love it. It feels like
I like
such
the way you
a
say broody.
distinct identity.
Yeah.
Identity
Yeah.
for an era that I'm nostalgic for. I love it.
Yes. Was that better or worse than the magenta era?
It's better because right now everything's just fucking dumb. Everything you look at in the news, like everything's dumb. And I'd at least rather have everything be brooding.
Well, it's often the case that eras are only defined after the fact. So who knows what era we will decide in retrospect we were living in right now.
I think we're in the Jenny Gutter era.
Jenny Gutter. We're in the Jenny Gutter.
We in the gutter right here, boys.
It's like the Uncanny Valley, but hotter. Waiting for Viva Pinata 2 gives us 100 arses. Says, if you exclude the 2 spin-offs, Future Multiplayer and Lego, Horizon Zero Dawn is a trilogy. Is it?
Was there? Oh, there was like a spin-off, Burning Shores, I think it was called. It was like
there's a VR game as well.
Like a
there was a VR game.
I don't consider that a trilogy.
Yeah, in the same way I don't consider the. Again, I think we all have our own definition of trilogy. But mine personally is like I don't consider Spider-Man to be a trilogy yet. Like Miles Morales feels like a different thing.
I mean, the clue is
like
that the third game had a 2 on the end.
Yes, I think that's a good clue. Like you don't need a number at the end of your games. Like you can make 3 games
Apparently
with
not.
subtitles at the end of them. But if your third game has a 2 at the end of it, probably not a trilogy.
Yeah. Anyway, Silence the Hedgehog gives $5. Says Chizomythos had iffy middle point with 7 Days a Skeptic being in space. Not that it wasn't fun, but a more sensible setting in the future would have helped. How confused are you two right now?
What the fuck?
Chozo Mythos isn't. I thought at first that was Metroid, because that's what those birds are called.
No, that's Chozo. He's talking about the games I made.
Oh, Mazel Tov!
Chizomythos was my space horror trilogy.
Wow.
Anyway, Shawnee Pat gives $5. Says, do we consider Infamous 1 and 2 plus Second Son a trilogy? No. Sucker Punch used to cook. Go ahead and roast it just for me, Yards. Second Son was shit. Thanks for.
I like Second Shot.
I liked when you had to wank off the controller to spray paint. That was a great bit.
Wank off. We got to go to. It was wet in Seattle. I like levels that are wet.
Me too.
That's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
I don't like it that much. I just thought it was pretty.
No, the game sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, it had its charms, but considering Infamous 2 was one of my favorite sandbox games from that era.
It's a great game.
Damn, if you like it so much, you should write about it on the upcoming Summer Rainbow Moon.
You know what? I just might.
Spoilers.
At least remaster the fucking Infamous 1 and 2.
It is insane. What are we doing?
Why the fuck haven't you done that?
You own this company. Just do it.
Yeah. And Bloodborne while you're at it.
But they're not putting anything on PC anymore. They're Sony's pulling back from PC.
I mean, Nintendo have just announced they're going to start putting shit on Steam, so maybe things will come back around.
Did they?
No, they didn't. What?
I saw an announcement on Blue Sky this morning.
No.
About a collaboration between Nintendo and Steam. Was I lied to?
What?
I think you might have been lied to.
Or
Unless I completely missed it.
How credulous of me then.
Nintendo doesn't even have a blue sky, says Eric. You got tricked. You know who you got tricked by? The Jenny Agata fan club.
Oh no.
It was Agata all along.
Yeah, there's
again.
literally not a single ounce of news about it.
Man, where did I see that?
You got
Maybe you had a dream. Maybe you saw it in your
you
in
got
your
fake
sleep
news,
space.
bro.
Oh, I guess I got. Oh, fair
You're a
enough.
Republican.
Hang on. So read the next super chat. I need to look some things up.
Waiting for Viva Pinata. Thank you so much. Wait, why did Dark Horse not publish your last book? Were they allergic to Trilogies too, or did you ask them why the long face after delaying the print so long? There you go.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
It was literally a
Jay.
question only you could answer.
Oh, am I answering this?
Why, yeah, Jay,
hang
why
on,
did Dark
alright.
Horse not publish Yahtzee's book?
Well, they just. I guess it was sort of weird in the first place that they were publishing my books because they usually do comics, and they started like a books imprint.
Sure. I don't think
When
of Dark
I-
Horse as a book publisher. Yeah.
No, they came to me and said, "You got any books you want to publish, like about video games, something like that?" I said, "I've written a novel," and they said, "That'll do." This was back when I was really famous.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I guess they just eventually realized, wait, this isn't really the sort of thing we do. It feels weird to just keep
entirely
doing it.
pulled out of that stuff. That makes sense.
Just seems weird to keep doing it for that one guy. And then, of course, it's hard to like sell an established series to a different publisher. So we've gone like
course.
the self-publish, print to order route to finish off the established series is. But so, yes,
Makes perfect sense.
that's what we're doing. Flaming Whippet gives $5 and says, "What do you call a trilogy that isn't a trilogy, i.e., Kingdom Hearts?"
Not a
Yeah,
trilogy.
I mean, there's 3 games, but there's like a million things in between them. That's also a fun one. That's like we were talking about with Assassin's Creed 3.
Not a trilogy, because they're not even generational trilogies that are part of the same era. Because 3 is like multiple generations after. Yeah, I just wouldn't really consider them trilogies, even though they're like
PS2
numbered.
to PS4.
Hmm.
Long time.
Camden Ninja gives $5, says, "For something completely different, have you guys tried the Guess the Game for 1 second of music quiz? I feel Marty would do the best of you three. I haven't tried that one.
That one's fun. I did that on
I'd love to do
stream
that.
once. There's like a YouTube. You can find YouTube videos where they just sort of play like 1 second of a song, and you have to guess what it is.
I think that's
Oh,
much
I'd love to
easier
do
with
that.
retro games than it is with modern games. I feel like
It
a lot
is.
of games just have your sort of generic orchestral soundtracks.
Yep. Yeah. Whereas a lot of older games, you can hear like one beep boop, and you know what it's
Yeah.
from. Yep.
What was that from?
Bioshock.
I think the last like new franchise I can think of. Oh, Eric's just found a thing. Eric's just found a thing that.
Oh, you can
might-
find that, but not Jenny Guts'
yeah.
bits.
Yeah, this was the thing I saw. It must have been a fake.
It was. It has 3,000 followers.
There you go. Well, there you go. And always never assume because it makes an ass out of you and me and all that.
That.
What a weird selection of games as well.
Yeah.
Mario Galaxy,
Look at it.
Ocarina of Time, Kirby Mass Attack, and WarioWare. What the fuck?
Yeah, that is weird.
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Hell, on the DS is one of the games they're bringing.
Yeah. should have looked a bit closer, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe.
It's this. To be fair, it is the smallest box.
Yeah, that's just 12 days late for April Fools.
Good stuff.
Bob by VG gives $4.99 and says the Xenoblade trilogy had a good narrative. Oh,
Did
hang
you?
on,
Wasn't that Bobby?
just jumped it? Bobby VG. Sorry, I was confused. you flustered me now.
No,
Had a
Sorry.
I like how it could be Bob by Video Games, but I'm like, I think it's probably Bobby Video Games. Also, what
Bob
a
by
cool
Video
name
Games,
Bobby
yeah.
Video Games is.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The Xenoblade trilogy had a good narrative through line while still telling its own stories. The DLC for 3 wrapped up the overarching story strongly.
It's on my
Okay.
list. It's on
Thank
my
you, Nathan.
list.
If you're
I can
wrapping
fuck
shit up in a DLC, no thanks.
Didn't Prince of Persia 2006 do that? Or was it 2008?
2008. Yeah. We've talked about that before about hiding your ending behind DLC. Asura's Wrath famously also did it.
It's not on, is it?
Not
It's
great,
not.
Bob.
Kite M gives 5,000 CLPs and says Bioshock's weird because 2 was made by a different studio on 2K's orders and Ken Levine never recognized its existence. So Infinite is designed as a direct sequel. Also, IMO 2 plays better than Infinite. I would disagree.
Who plays better
with you
than
there.
one?
I think people are down on Infinite, but I rather enjoyed playing it. I like the swashbuckling feel.
Yeah, I think 2 plays better than 1, and 2's DLC standalone story, Minerva's Den, is incredible. Arguably
Pretty good.
my favorite Bioshock thing.
I really like Infinite as well. I think those 3 games are good games in general.
Yeah.
It's cool that we kept getting more Bioshocks.
Generally.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't kick any of them out of bed.
No.
Also, where's Judas?
Yeah, unless Jenny was a gutting at the door.
Some would argue
knock.
that System Shock 2, Bioshock, and Bioshock Infinite formed the Ken Levine trilogy.
Sure. And he hasn't made a game since then, so.
I know.
No.
Well, he's doing Judas, isn't he? When's Judas coming out?
He's Judasing. Easter. Next Easter.
Oh, yes. I was about to say, Easter's just been and gone. The Man in Black said it's going to cost 30 pieces of silver, lol.
Yeah.
The Man in Black gives $5 and says, my favourite book trilogy is the Jacques McKeown series. Can't wait to read the next book, Yards. Yay! Check it out. Check out my Q&A on my YouTube channel that I never update. But apparently enough people still follow that I got like 5-figure views on it.
Nice.
Sinos the Hedgehog 2000 gives $5, says, loved Project Hail Mary, so went looking for more books by Andy Weir. Found one named Artemis, and premise looked similar to Galaxy for Cash. Coincidence? I don't know, I haven't read it. I've read The Martian, and I thought the writing was a bit smug. And I know people have given me shit for accusing other people of being smug, including Marty. But, takes one to know one. Takes set a thief to catch a thief. Set a smug asshole to catch a smug asshole.
When did Galaxy for Cash come out?
Give me a sec. Well, you might as well look it up, because I'm going to have to look it up.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't remember.
Will destroy the Galaxy for Cash. Was it during COVID? Was that the one during COVID? 2020?
Might have been.
Hang
on,
right?
TV Tropes will know.
That's not a TV show, it's a book.
Yes, 2020. It came out.
That.
We'll save the Galaxy for Food in 2017, Galaxy for Cash in 2020, and Galaxy for Good in 2024.
Incredible. What a trilogy. We used to be a society.
White. I'm lost for place again. I'm all confused.
Murasaki
848 gives $5 and says, the 70s British actress I crushed on hard is Gabrielle Drake from UFO. Gabrielle Drake, rather.
What is that? What is UFO a series?
I've never seen UFO.
Oh, she's got extremely purple hair in this show.
Whoa.
Low budget British sci-fi. Who doesn't like a bit of that?
That's kind of what I've been watching the live action One Piece, and it kind of has a little bit of cheesiness to it that looks like old British sci-fi.
It feels like they're leaning into it in a way, and I really respect that.
Like forests don't look like forests, but I'm kind of
fine. You have to work very hard to look as cheap as like 70s Doctor Who. Or
it's definitely not that cheap looking. But,
or Blake 7. You remember Blake 7?
No.
No, I've never heard of that.
Mostly filmed in like corridors in BBC Television Centre.
No, I like that.
Lots of like people wearing vent piping over their arms to pretend to be robots. Vactor gives $2 and says, I was on the Jenny train long ago.
Choo choo.
Well, get back on the Jenny train. We're all riding the Jenny train to Agata Junction today.
Jenny.
Blue Team K087 gives $4.99 says, interplanetary is between planets in the star system. Interstellar is between stars in the same galaxy. Intergalactic is between galaxies. Well, thank you, Mr. Pedant.
What is intercourse?
Intercourse.
Intercourse.
Like, two bodies in the same bed system?
An interaction between two, yes. So I suppose intracourse would be an alternative word for masturbation.
Yeah, no, it's outer course.
Run its course.
There you go.
Give me a towel.
Get me out of this podcast.
Adam Riggs gives $1.99 and says, Resistance trilogy actually got better as it went. Well, as I say, I never played the first two, so I'll take your word for that.
Yeah, that worked out great for that game series, didn't it?
I have them here.
Yeah. Fill My Ass Up comes back with 550 Norwegian kroner and says, am I the only one who's mad they never made a third game to the Darkness? The cliffhanger in the second game still annoys me. I don't even remember the cliffhanger in the Darkness 2.
That's the Backsnakes one, right?
Yeah, Backsnakes. Can't call them Backsnakes.
They are Backsnakes.
I remember
Okay, cool.
reviewing The Darkness 2. I don't remember anything about it. That game just went in and out like buttered lightning.
Yeah. Wow.
Through my
That is. That was.
That's the best thing you've said all pod.
in one ear and out the other, like a greased up worm from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
That's got slightly less punch.
I'm still thinking about buttered lightning. I like that quite a bit.
That was fire.
I mean, that's just grease.
You should write books, Yachts. That was really good.
That's just saying greased lightning, but with a different word that means greased.
We're paying you a compliment. I also almost called you Josh for some reason.
Why did you call me Josh?
I don't know. I don't even know any Joshes.
Do you know a bunch of really verbose Joshes?
Yeah.
We know a lot of Jessies.
Do you know a lot of Jessies?
No, a lot of J's. Just J's in general.
Yeah.
Got no end of J's.
Dr. J, Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
J. Pinkerton.
J.
DJ Rick.
Gutter.
J. Niagata. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that was the last of the super chats. Barring any last minute ones. So let's start wrapping shit up. Thanks for listening to the Windbreakers podcast. We do this every week, talking about random gaming shit. I suspect next week might well be a Pragmata spoiler cast.
Pregnant mother.
Possibly, if we all get through it. But if you like Pragmata, or hearing things about it, you might want to tune in for this week's Fully Ramblomatic on Wednesday. For that is the review. We got a review code in early again. We can actually be relevant.
We love those.
It's happened twice in who knows how long.
And it's a game that's very manageable to finish in a normal human amount of time.
Yeah,
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? An actual, perfectly enclosed 10-hour narrative-based AAA game.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to those? Yes, I've also got my weekly stream, Yahtzee Tries, on Wednesday, and that'll all be summarized in the Yahtzee Tries compilation video on Sunday. And that's all the stuff I'm doing this week.
Jay, you had a big old video go up this morning.
I had a 3 times longer than usual design delve come out today on Final Fantasy VII. It was probably the most fun I've ever had making a video ever. I really enjoyed my time, and one of the unique things I did for this episode is I streamed my entire playthrough, and I'm going to be doing the same thing for the next game, which I'm going to allow you guys to vote on. So if you would like to have an influence on what retro game I've never played before stream I'm going to do next, tentatively...
This is my bit.
Your bit is people vote on a thing? Oh no.
It's still a democracy.
People vote on a retro game I have to play during the summer game drought.
Donkey Kong rom-com.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm stealing Yachtzee's bit, and I'm doing that. It's tentative. The list is tentatively FF8, Majora's Mask,
You never played,
and then maybe Symphony of the Night and Metal Gear Solid. But
you've never played those 3 games. Those are 3
exactly,
of my
Yachts. That's why I'm
games.
streaming them, and people are gonna vote on which ones we see. But the thing is, I need to source a PS1. So if anyone in the Massachusetts area knows of a retro store that might be selling a PS1 and some copies, let me know, because I want to do it on original hardware instead of emulating it. So,
well, if you can't do that, you can play Symphony of the Night, but only if you buy the Castlevania Retro Collection on PS4, which comes with Bloodlines as well.
Yeah, I don't have a PS4 or a 5, and I'd rather go buy a PS1 than a 5.
You can also buy a PS2s also
it?
play PS1 games.
Yes, so PS2 is a potential. But yeah, anyone in the Massachusetts area, if you know, DM me, because I'm on the hunt. But yeah, come vote. It's on twitch.tv/DesignDelve. I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Right.
And DevHeads this week.
And DevHeads this week. We got normal Hidden Gems later this evening. And then tomorrow, as a reminder, at noon Central, the time that this podcast starts, Jack and I, with Eric producing, are going to be doing our Breath of the Wild challenge. We're going to be doing Breath of the Wild bingo. The two of us think we are the Breath of the Wild masters, so we're going to be playing against each other for as long as it takes for the two of us to complete our Breath of the Wild bingo cards. That starts tomorrow at noon. That was funded by your incredible patronage, so please hang out for that. And then we should have normal streams the entire rest of the week. And then remember, next week, we're going to have a big video about it later this week. But next week, Thursday, the 23rd, is our Second Wind Indie Game Showcase.
Ooh,
So we'll have a
yeah.
lot more details on that later
This
this
is us.
week.
We're hitting the big times with this one.
Yeah.
And we're all collaborating on it.
Yeah.
We're going to be announcing games. Instead of commenting on other people's announcement streams, we're gonna do our own announcement stream of shit.
Yep. Whoop. Be very exciting.
We've sold out. We're in the big leagues.
Hell yeah.
So that'll be it from us for this week. Until I see you all again, we will say ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Anti buys.
Agata.
Bye. Jenny Agata, call me.